Hi everyone, welcome to Art Felt Fibres. Today I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful Easter bunny that will look gorgeous as a standalone piece on your Easter table, perhaps set against a sprig of cherry blossom and surrounded by gorgeous needle felted Easter eggs and any other favourite Easter trinkets that you might have. Now, as a former stage and costume designer, I always recommend doing really good research about the animal that you're going to be making. It just helps you get a sense of the anatomy, the shape, proportion, the size of the eyes, the shape of the head, the proportion of the head to the body, the haunches and the hips, how it's going to sit, and the position of the paws and the position of the eyes and stuff. So those are really good things to do before you even begin, and that way you can familiarize yourself with the anatomy of, in this case, the bunny rabbit. Okay, so there's grey and white, some browns and some top coat grey, and a little bit of pink for the nose, and the white we just use for the paws perhaps, but I actually just stick to the natural batting, which is perfect for forming the body, the legs, the shape of the head and the arms. So let's start with making the body by taking some core wool and keeping it quite thin, but measuring 30 centimeters. And we're going to really stick to this measurement, otherwise we'll end up getting in a pickle with the body sizes and the proportions. So we're going to measure 10 centimeters wide, and this will give us a really accurate measurement for making the bunny's body. And this bunny size is 15 centimeters. And this is possible to make within 3 hours. If you start getting a body that's too big, then you end up having to scale everything else up, and it can take you 4 or 5 hours. So this is a 3-hour workshop. We really need to stick with the plan. So we roll this up, pushing into the foam to create a bit of traction. And by rolling it up quite firmly, you're reducing your felting time in, a little down the line, but we're just going to anchor in the fibers. Probably one needle is easiest, just to tack it together. So now we're going to grab a little bit of the core wool to create that nice sort of bottom heavy bean shape, and we're just going to wrap that around. So this is what we're aiming for. Okay, is a nice round bottom like here, with a smaller neck. So the body is still a little bit too big. We're going to be quite precise about this so that we can make sure that we have enough time to make this. The other alternative is that you can start a little bit earlier with this video, so that by the time the workshop comes around, you would have a head start, but you can also have questions that you might want to ask. Nice and round, getting this nice curved shape in the bunny. This lovely shape that you can cup in your hands. And this area here is going to be the stomach, and if it's looking a bit puckered at the moment, do not worry. We can put a little layer to cover any misgivings along the way. The most important thing is to get the size and proportion. Okay, so how is this? Just looking a bit more like it. Okay, so you want the firmness of the body to still have some bounce in it. If you start to needle felt too ferociously, you can end up with a really, really hard core, and it's just going to sort of lose its liveliness. You can always add layers on later if you need more body. When you pick this bunny up once it's finished, I always find anyway, for my needle felted creatures, I like them to have firmness but not so hard that they're like a hard sculpture. I like to be able to sort of just give them a little squeeze and feel some life in there. Okay, so one last measurement. I can't stress enough how important it is to just check your proportions. That's good. Okay, so we have a nice little head here that we've made, and there are two alternatives for the head. You can either sculpt the head using your tools to make the cheeks, in which case you'll need the wool to be very sort of soft and squidgy so that you can sculpt it, and you'll need a bigger starting point, which is what I did on the previous head. Or you can add the cheeks here onto the form that you already have. So we have a rough idea of what the shape of the head is going to be like. And remember that the back is more like the back of a hazelnut. And then we've got these two bits of wool here that we're going to roll up, and they're going to be the cheeks and the jaws, which actually on rabbits are very strong. There we go. So we're going to attach one there. Don't worry about the joins, we'll cover those up in a little while. And then you join that round. Put the other one on. Okay. Might add that in there too. And before you put the second one on, just make sure that you've got the profile correct. Like there. And they shouldn't join. So we have a little head that's got these chubby cheeks and jaws on there, and then we're going to create the nose that's going to come between them. And for that, let's get a little piece of like this, anchor it to the fur, fold it over, just flatten it a little bit, and then a bit like a paper aeroplane, we're just going to fold one piece in like that, and then fold the other side in like that, and you have this pointy section like this. And we'll leave the end of it unfelted here so that we can blend that into the head. Beyond. Okay, and then this is going to come down like so. So you're going to, it's quite far down. Just going to anchor it in there like that. Okay, and then just felt it down Did you know that when bunnies twitch their noses on encountering a new smell or they're sensing something in their environment that isn't quite right, every twitch amplifies their olfactory senses and it increases their capacity to smell more smells. So every single twitch, that's why they twitch so fast, because every single twitch gives them more information and doubles and triples their capacity. Oh, it's amazing. That's why when you pick a bunny up or you see a bunny in a field who's sort of suddenly alert, they'll twitch their nose super fast in order to try and work out if there's any danger around. Just pull it down a little bit. And then I got this little trick from the lovely lady who runs the wishing shed. She does the most beautiful little sleeping baby bunnies that can fit in the palm of your hand. And she's a beautiful felter as well. But I normally sculpt the wool out of one piece, but she does this technique of adding, which I think is... And I learnt this little trick from her. And if she sees this video, thank you. I just want to thank you for your lovely work. Okay, yeah, you can find her at the Wishing Shed, and you can look up her beautiful little sleeping bunnies, which I think are one of her. I've only really seen that one video of hers, but it's really lovely. Okay, let me get another little piece, roll it into a ball, and do the other little whisker pad to go on underneath the nose here. So watch out for those fingers. Try and use your nails to protect your fingers so that you're not pointing the needle directly at your fingertips, because it really is a very sharp pain. All right, this one's got very chubby cheeks. And just do a little mouth. And needle felt that on there. Did you know that bunnies have 26 teeth? That's amazing. That's cute. Okay. Now you can either put a light veil of wool over the top to disguise any of these joins, but if you're doing a white bunny, then that definitely is recommended. But if you're just doing a wild bunny, I tend not to bother. You can just ease out the nose if it's become a bit tight, and just pin it down again just to get that bunny shape. It's that classic little cross that happens with a bunny, isn't it? Like that and that. We're going to measure it again just to see. Now this one's a little bit bigger than the template, but you can always just squeeze that in, or this particular bunny can have a little bit of character where he's got a wider jaw, but what I'm going to do is just bring in the ends here so that it's a bit more. That feels a bit more like it. Let's have another little look. Yeah, that's great. That's great. And that's going to fit onto, you can see I've left this fibre here so that we can attach it afterwards. But that's a good shape. This is the beginning of our bunny taking form. And now we're going to add the colour. People, if you're doing a white rabbit, this would be the time to get some your bleached white. So if you really want a lovely, lovely white rabbit, a more domesticated rabbit, get some white wool and you're going to veil that over. And you really don't want too much white. You want the other colour to come through, and that will allow the fibres to and the colours to breathe, so you get these different tones of white. And you will basically needle felt that all in and all around. But for the moment, what we're going to do is a wild bunny. So for those of you that would like a pink nose or have pink wool, we're going to get a little tiny bit of this merino top wool. And for those of you that want to do a brown nose or only have brown, take a look at the bunny photos. I mean, all the bunnies have slightly different colourings. And choose your nose. Because it's Easter, I'm quite partial to pink anyway, as you can see. So I like a little bit of pink on the bunny and in the bunny ears, but you can either do white inside the bunny ears later on or a darker nose here. In which case, if you're going to go dark, I would go quite dark with that sort of dark, and you can build that up. For the pink, go in here and get it also into the mouth. Or you can do the mouth separately. You don't want the nose too wide. Just doing a little hint of pink. And then a needle felt all of this in. And then we're going to lay a lovely tan colour, golden colour on top of that. Now for those of you that don't have pink but want to do a darker nose, can either use a little bit of this dark colour here or a combination of this wool as well. And we'll take a quick look at the picture. Okay, so we're going to now do the wild bunny colours, starting with the browns underneath. This is a nice sort of caramel colour. I like to tease the fibres apart. This is carded merino top wool, and it's quite silky, not very easy to create your forms with, but fine for doing colour. If you don't have top wool, I think in the kit from Adelaide Walker you're going to have some really nice Bergschaft wool that is very crimpy and easy to work with. With the merino tops, you have to tease them apart a little bit. So what we're going to do is start I like to just so after adding a little bit of pink for the nose and a tiny little few strands to define the nose area here, and a little bit of pink in the mouth, tiny little bit of pink in the mouth, you'll have a really cute little base of the head now. It'll be really coming along. Now, we don't want it to look like a chipmunk, so you can use the end of your needle just to tease the fibres apart, and not to worry too much about this undercoat because it's going to be covered with grey. But when you do this teasing, just be very careful not to catch the needle too deeply into the wool, otherwise it will snap. I want to keep some nice white around the eyes because that always lends a lovely little subtle openness to the eye as well. Okay, so now let's get a little bit of grey. I've got this nice grey here, and again tease it so it's like a veil, really thin. You want the layers of the fur to breathe. Now what I like to do is create a little hole for the eyes, and that way you haven't got to you can do a nice layering and keep the white underneath the cheek and the jawline. Keep that nice and white as well. So you don't want to double up this grey, you want it to breathe. You want that layer to be really subtle, but to sort of cover, very slightly cover the golden brown underneath. Okay, and the little whisker pads around the front of the mouth, you're wanting that to not be covered either. So once we've really securely, oh, there's a little bit of natural grass in there. Once we've attached it securely around the whisker pads and the nose, you can gently just tease these away by holding it down with your fingers. Otherwise it will just all pull away if you don't secure it while you pull. Okay, tease these around the whisker pads. Again, you want that brown to breathe underneath, so you just almost use the needle like a comb and have the brown showing as the first layer, the grey as the top layer. And then we'll do the same for the other eye. Little felted creatures, they take on a life of their own. It's just so sweet the way they come to life. But don't worry too much about the top because we're going to be attaching the ears. And you want just to double check that you've got the eyes, the sort of whites of the eyes in the same place, otherwise your bunny's going to look really wonky. Just keep checking that both sides are sort of symmetrical. and well matched, keeping that jaw nice and white. Now the eyes. I have this very dark wool here that is ideal for the eyes. You can use brown or dark brown like this, or black. And you want to get two lengths. I like to make the eyes actually bulge quite a lot. Bunnies have 360-degree vision pretty much, with their eyes on the side of their heads. So we're going to have a length like this. We're going to start rolling it over. I like to do it in my fingers rather than on the felting pad. Tuck the edges in as you go, both sides. So you're creating this little sort of beady eye. Okay. And they have such beautiful almond-shaped eyes. They're just so gorgeous. All right, so we can shape it when it's on. But you're going to try and keep hold of the fibers so that they don't splay out, and then get your needle and then tuck and anchor the fibers in. Wanting to really get this lovely docile shape to the eye. And we can tease the wool out at the ends here. But to start with, we're just going to anchor the eye onto the head, and then we can, and we do that just by getting the edges down like that, and then we're going to try and coax the wool and shape the eyes so that it has that very nice, beautiful little sort of gentle shape. So gently with that needle so you don't break it. Keep anchoring down, shaping as you go. You can flatten it as well with your finger because it's bulging upwards. Just keep working the wool so that you get the shape you want. But don't needle felt into the middle of the eye. You really want to keep it bulging like a beady eye. That's actually a really pretty shape. It may not be completely true to form, but it's got lots of character in it and expression. It's very beautiful. And then in a minute, once we've done the other eye, we'll put a tiny little bit of white in here just to make it glow a bit, make it come alive. Okay, so don't worry too much about the edges, just tuck them under, tuck the stray bits under, and then line up your eyes so it's, look at it from above, look at it from the front, and then turn it onto its side and anchor it down. You want to make sure that the wool that you've just wrapped up doesn't come undone, so keep it pressed down with your fingers. On the top of the eye and the bottom of the eye, you can sort of then check. Don't worry too much if the eyes look a bit different at this point because you can keep working it. But once you've got them anchored, you really start to compare the second eye with the first eye. Take your time. Try and give it the same shape and expression as the other one. There we go. Like I did with the other eye, just tease out a little bit of wool so you can get that very pretty little almond shape. And really do your best not to needle felt the middle, because you want that eye to bulge out. So they're looking pretty good. Not quite even. Sometimes you have to force the wool with your will and your fingers to make it comply with the shape you're trying to create. Okay, I'm just going to tease a bit more wool in there like this. You can angle the needle inwards into the eye to help reduce its size a bit, but never on the top bit, just on the sides. I'm just going to pull this down a little bit like this. It really is worth getting the eyes right. It can sometimes be the trickiest thing of all with this whole bunny, but what do they say about eyes? They're the windows to the soul. Darker. This would be a good time to refer to your research, because the colouring really does make a difference. And I also like to do a little bit of extra dark wool around the cheeks here, like this, and that just gives it that sort of slightly smoky eye actually. Here we go. I'm going to attach it into where the eye is. It's just going to give the whole cheek and the colouring of the fur more depth. So it's going, anchoring into the corner of the eye there, and then you just sort of tease it out. But you don't want it to look like a chipmunk, so it's fur rather than a stripe. Got to spend the time just teasing the fibres out so that they're even, and then once they're veiled and even, you just gently anchor them in to the form of the head. And these little subtleties really do make a difference to the life of your bunny, the life of your animals that you're felting. And for me, that's what sort of makes the difference between a needle felted animal that has like a spirit to it, that looks alive, versus a needle felted sculpture of an animal that just looks really needle felted and doesn't have that breath and that life in it. You just want these little subtle fibres to almost float like a rabbit's fur. There we go. And the more you practice this, it's like watercolour painting, the more skilled you become at it. Okay. So, I think, yeah, that's nice, just sort of being a bit smoky eye there. Let's do the other side. Again, just a little gentle connection into the corner of the eye there, just to make it very docile and pretty. And then just accenting around the cheeks. Now, ears. I've got this lovely crimpy wool here that is, you know, like a Corriedale or a Maori wool. And on the stencil here, we've got sizes for ears. So we don't want the ears very thick, because bunny ears are not thick, but we will half this. Now, I like the Easter bunny to look more like an Easter hare than a bunny rabbit, just because I think that's there's something a bit more traditional about that. It's more mystical. So long ears are good. On this rabbit here, you can see I've got the ear, but there is an extra centimetre attached to the bottom, and we use that to attach the ears to the heads. So to do the ears, you're going to tease the fibres out a little bit so that they're nice and long and there aren't any bald patches in there, but you still want it quite thin, because what we're going to do is fold the fibres inwards, and a trick you can use to get the right shape is to do a little anchoring and then folding. Now you want these quite wide at the base, because when you're folding the ears around, you need enough ear to create that lovely pinched effect at the bottom. And then you do that to the next one, and then you put in your inner ear pinky fur, about that much, say. I like to attach it like this, one line going across, and then fold it over, and that way you haven't got lots of pink fur that you're attaching to the head. And if it's just a little bit too long, use the needle as a fold, and then you can just tease it up to work for you. But bunny ears actually in the light are almost translucent, so you want that sort of effect. Okay. We'll pull this off. Let's just see how much pink has come through. Oh, that's a bit of extra pink that was on the back. Okay, that's fine. Now, I'd like this to be just a little bit more tight, so we're going to fold it over ever so slightly. So tease this out so it looks naturally fading into the edges. We'll just put that against the stencil. You can see that's good. One thing you can also do, which is sort of quite exotic, is to add a tiny bit more wool into the ear at the base, and that will create a bit more sort of luxury to your bunny. And you just want to just anchor that very gently. It really does make a difference if you measure out your pieces so that they're both the same, because you can end up having to spend quite a lot of time just rectifying size differences. And to just look at the back, trim off any pink fuzzy. Alright, so we've got one ear here. We're going to fold it round, and the ears, so it sort of lines up with the nose and the eye, and then there's a tiny bit of space in between each one. So looking at that like that, it's going to be about here. Okay, I'm just going to get a tiny bit of white. And for both these eyes, you want to put it in the same place, so the source of light is coming from the same place. And you're going to do it's nice to have it quite fuzzy. Cut it nice and close, and then anchor that in a bit, but you don't want to pucker the eye in the same place. Just sort of line it up, poke it in again, anchor that light point. Just keep justifying the position. Okay. Okay, now let's just see where we're at with the bunny shape. That's really coming along. Once we've got the big hind legs in and the paws there, this would be a good time to take a break.